Welcome to Newlane's Introduction to Philosophy course. This is an introductory level college course in philosophy. As the short description says, this is an introductory survey course of philosophy, introducing learners to the fields of ethics, epistemology, metaphysics, logic, and the history of philosophy, and to the basics of reading and writing philosophy. The goals are included, you can see here. I'll just read through them. The goals are to identify and describe major areas of philosophical inquiry, to summarize the broad outlines of the history of Western philosophy, list the main eras in the Western philosophy tradition, reconstruct and evaluate arguments, describe different broad notions of the work of philosophy, identify and explain historically important philosophical arguments and contextualize these in light of general philosophical fields, problems, or trends, and to construct philosophical arguments and articulate and respond to objections. So those are the overarching goals for the course. They're kind of generic statements of the intended learning outcomes for this course. You can look in the lessons. Here are the lessons. And the lessons give you an idea of how the structure of the course. So we start with asking, what is philosophy? What is distinctive about philosophical inquiry? So we'll start by tracing the origins of the Western philosophy tradition back to Greece. We'll be looking at those people and looking at what types of questions they were asking, what types of orientation they were taking to the world, what were their perspectives, what was their approach, and ask how that gave rise to philosophy. We'll then be taking a very broad strokes to look at the history of philosophy, going back to the origins in ancient Greece, up through the beginning of the 19th century. So that is a very wide swath of time. So we'll just be making very broad strokes to try to recognize some of the trends, what was happening in philosophy, how was philosophy developing in those eras. We'll then look at epistemology, which epistemology is like a field in philosophy, and epistemology asks questions like, what is knowledge? What does it mean to say you know something? What are our justifications for claiming we know something? And we'll be looking at some different schools of thought on answers to those questions. We'll then look at some very significant texts. These are two short texts that you can read and not very long, and they're enjoyable reads, and they give you a really good introduction to philosophical writing and philosophical arguments. They're enjoyable reads, but they've also had each in their own way has had a tremendous impact on the development of philosophy. We'll then look into metaphysics, which metaphysics asks questions like, what is ultimate reality? What is the world made up of? What is the stuff of the world or the universe? Then we'll look into ethics, which asks questions like, what does it mean to be good? What makes a behavior or an act moral or good? What does it mean to live a good life? What is a good life? And then we'll look into logic, which logic is about looking into arguments, exploring how arguments hold together or fall apart, what makes an argument valid and sound. And we'll also be looking into logical fallacies, which are logical errors or mistakes that we make with the logic of our arguments. And then finally, we'll look into philosophical writing. And of course, over the course of this course, you'll encounter a lot of philosophical writing, but you'll also have an opportunity to do your own philosophical writing in a paper in this course, around 1,000 words, where you'll either respond to one of the ideas or one of the texts that we've read. For example, the allegory of the cave, or Descartes' argument that ends with the claim, I think, therefore I am, or some argument or idea in epistemology or metaphysics or ethics, and try to come up with your own philosophical take on that. So that is That gives you a basic idea of this course. It's a great introduction, gives you a really good survey of the big fields in philosophy, and it introduces you to concepts and ideas and prepares you in other ways for all of the other philosophy courses in the philosophy major. And even if you're not majoring in philosophy, it's a good course to give you a good background in the development, the origins, and some of the big broad fields in philosophy. So welcome to Introduction to Philosophy from Newlane. We're thrilled to have you here and can't wait to see what you think.